Welcome to the Power Hour by the Center for Energy Workforce Development. My name is Conchetta. I'm an electrician by trade, and I'll be your host. Today, we return with Amber and Lena talking about what it's like to be a heavy equipment operator. And let's dive in. We closed off last time by talking about what was something that you didn't realize as you got started in your career path. What is something about being an operator that you just didn't know was going to come up? And we're going to kind of jump off with a little bit of a follow-up question with that, and really what is something that wasn't on your radar? Lena has kind of did it in part one, so let's make sure Amber gets her part in there. Amber, what's something that wasn't really on your radar? Can you think of anything like kind of like the math part, right?
Yeah, how technical it is, because I know having no experience going into it, it you're just hogging dirt around, right? You're just taking scoops, you're taking how highly coordinated everything has to be and how much skill is involved and how technical it is. So those were aspects that weren't on my radar at all.
All right. So we've talked about kind of how everybody got, you guys got your start in your trade and kind of how there was some similarities and differences. But when we're talking about just being a heavy equipment operator and getting started, can we just kind of shift gears a little bit and get a little bit more detailed? So I think we'll start with you, Lena. Can you describe the process you followed to get started as a heavy equipment operator? So if somebody was like out there going, okay, what do I do? I want to become a heavy equipment operator, and I know it's got to be kind of a high level overview depending on what area they're in. But for you, what were the steps that you had to take to get started?
Yeah, so what I suggest doing for steps wise is first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna find your local union hall. You're gonna find out who's closest to you, which jurisdiction you're in, and you're gonna call your hall or the apprenticeship, their training facility, and you're gonna see when they're taking applications. And this is, the route that I went. And they're gonna say, hey, this month, this day, we're taking applications. So you're gonna go get that application, you're gonna pick it up, you're gonna fill it out and you're gonna fill it out, you're gonna check it, and you're gonna double check it because in the trades, that's what they like to say, measure twice, cut once. So you're gonna make sure you're good. You got all your bases covered and turn it in on time, which, that whole process, it's like, wow, that's pretty simple. And it is, they don't make this rocket science. A lot of the parts of it, getting your all your stuff together, your paperwork might be a little bit, but you're
What
gonna turn
what
in that.
what kind of paperwork did you have to turn in?
Yeah, so they'll need like your diploma transcripts. They'll need a doctor's note we had to have saying that we are medically fit to operate heavy machinery. You're gonna go through. There's like a checklist of questions of things you've done throughout your life. Have you changed a light bulb? Have you changed a tire on a car? Just kind of I don't know if I'd call it a personality test, but just things about you. You're gonna turn in your work experience, all those things. And then you're going to wait for the call. But there are some things with the apprenticeship, at least with Local 150, that you can update your application. So things you can update is, getting your OSHA 10 for the construction industry. You could do OSHA 30 if you really wanted to be an overachiever, which it's a long class. But CPR first aid, that's things that you could put towards your application. So you could always call, update those things, and then you wait for your call, which is it's usually, at least in my experience, in the springtime when work starts picking up again.
Nice, nice. There's a couple of things I want to touch on there, actually, that you said that I want to touch on with Amber, but I want to know what the process looked like for you. But you, Amber, I know you started down a path of doing something different. And I don't know if that's important to your story on how you got started operating equipment. You kind of already shared a little bit of that, but what was the process like for you when you got started?
It's kind of hard to remember that far back. It's I know they've changed it a little bit since, but I think it was essentially the same. So you fill out, you contact the admin with the JATC, you get an application, fill that out.
Could
Then
you
they
really quick say what the JTC, what does that stand for?
Journeyman Apprenticeship Training Committee.
Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee, maybe? All right. It could be
That's
journeyman, but it's Joint Apprenticeship Training
it's
Committee.
joint.
Sorry. All right. It's a pretty common term across the construction industry with all the training programs, but just wanted to throw that out because it was an acronym. Okay.
Yeah,
So back
no,
to
good
you.
call. So then it's a pretty general application also. Then from there, you have a day where everybody comes in. Everyone has their own time slot. You go in and do a panel interview where you're sitting in front of a handful of staff members from the hall. And then there's various employers from our signatory companies, different staff members there. You have an interview. Then the last half of the day, everybody comes in and they do an ASVAB test. It's a general competency test, the same one they do for the military. And you have a scoring system, and that's where you land on the wait list.
I one of the things I wanted to circle back is it's not in our little cheat sheet that we sent out to you, but I happen to know Amber. So Amber, you back to the whole safety thing. Well, that OSHA 30, but it's long. But you did some training for your local here, right? So you actually
Yep.
were a trainer so what was that like, and what did you teach?
I did. I'll start saying early on into my apprenticeship, I saw that instructors were getting ready to retire. The safety classes were painful. They were always the same class I mean that with all due respect. And I saw a need there. So pretty much the second that I journeyed out, I wrote up a letter of proposal and I was like, you guys should hire a part-time trainer. Pick the thing that nobody else wants to do and then do it well. And it gets you a foot in the door. So while I was on winter layoff, because I like taking layoff, I assisted. I was a part-time trainer. I did the HAZWOPER, the OSHA, the MSHA, and I enjoyed it. I actually liked it. And I figured if I had to sit through those classes every year, I wanted to teach them. So
Right. So OSHA's the general safety stuff. All of us, typically should have that if we're out on a construction site. It comes in the 10 and 30 hour, like Lena said. But you also mentioned MSHA and HAZWOPER. What's MSHA? And then follow that up with what HAZWOPER is, if you don't mind.
So MSHA is for the mining. So you need to have your MSHA to work in any of the pits, any of the mines. And then the HAZWOPER is the hazardous materials. A lot of the times I know with our membership, typically when they use it, it's when they're going over to California to help with fire cleanup, but it's for a lot of environmental disasters. There's a lot that's involved in that, but that one we only do once a year, so it's not very often, but it was fun.
Yeah, I have to go back. I think we gotta like get that tidbit, what you said about the picking the one thing that nobody wants to do and then doing it well. Did I do that justice?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you can get opportunity that other people aren't taking. Sometimes
It really is. And like I'll touch on it just a little bit if that's okay. Plenty of people are happy just going in, operating equipment and staying in place. But since I've joined the union, the path just keeps revealing itself with each step that I keep taking. And you have so many doors opening up. So I did the part-time trainer, which led to me interviewing for different positions, which led to me getting on our PAC, our political action committee, and getting more and more involved in the union, which eventually led to me being on staff, which I remember the first time somebody said something about that kind of as a joke. And I was like, that's insane. That's not going to happen. And that wasn't really that long ago. And it's cool. It's cool how that happens. If it's something that you want, it's available.
nice.
So.
That's good advice. Lena, you're fairly new, so you've been journeyed out for how long?
I would say maybe like coming up on a year, so maybe like 10 months now I've been journeyed out.
So, and you don't have to answer this question, but do you have your eye on anything like, hey, I want to try this or that? Do you have your eye on anything that you're trying to kind of manifest in your career?
Yeah, so I think it would be really cool to be an instructor one day. my dad was an instructor, so it's just kind of something. My mom was a teacher, so teaching kind of just runs in the family. But I will say, given when I first started, just opportunities that have came up were just nothing that was on my radar. So I'm really content in a way of just like letting just the path kind of flow and see what comes next.
Nice, nice. All right. So, we all talk about the people that we work around because that's who you spend all your time with. So, we're going to have both of you answer this. And while I got you, Lena, who or what has contributed the most to your success in your trade? And it can be
That
more than
is
one
who.
person,
I was
just
gonna say
so
that's
you
a
know.
hard question because it's been a lot. So I would say number one, my family. Like my dad and my mom, very encouraging. My dad being in the operator union, has been a huge help. But then, going into the union, the instructors and all the staff, that was my next step. And they were just so encouraging and just guided me where I needed to and gave me that encouragement. And then transferring into the field, the journeyman, I've just been so lucky and I've had incredible experiences of just get in the seat, let's go, let's learn, you're a little nervous, too bad, let's go and learn. So very thankful because that's not something I know that's always an experience because some operators, I wouldn't say they're job scared, but everyone's worried, because the next person's coming up and they want their job. So I've been very fortunate to work with selfless people and people that are sound and secure in their job that just want to teach you. So it's been a village that has raised me in this career, I would say, but I'm very thankful to everyone.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. How about you, Amber? Who was most impactful? Who really helped you along your path? Who was those who was that person or people?
It's people. I have to kind of start along the same. My my family been thankful. That makes it start to feel like an award show. I want to thank my family. But I've since day one of my apprenticeship, I've been a single parent, and there's no way I could have done this without having a really solid support system. So that can't go without saying. And then there's various people. I like the what Lena said about the village. I know very early on in my apprenticeship, I had the privilege of, it might have been the only other time I worked with a female. But I worked with her. She's now a foreman at that company that I worked for, and she general foreman, and she's amazing. And not everything that she said was super nice to me, but it was all helpful and it was all meant to be helpful and educational. She gave me opportunity and stern advice sometimes, and I still think about it and I still talk about it constantly. And then the various people that I've worked with that didn't beat me down when I made mistakes and that gave me opportunities and
I see.
encouragement, to keep growing.
Kind of made me think about when you talked about the woman operator that you worked under who didn't always maybe say the nicest things, but they were always impactful and good advice and things like that. She was kind of raising you as
Yes,
one of the
we
village. Did
talked
she?
about it. We're still friends. Even there's times where we've gone like a year without talking to each other, and we'll sit there and gab on the phone for 20 minutes, bunch of moms. I've made it a point when I was talking to staff about the impact that she had on my career one day. Our DR he's like, I hope that you've told her that. And I've made it a point to make sure that she knows how impactful that is. So,
DR. What is a DR?
district representative.
I want to get a little bit like kind of upbeat and something that I didn't really put in there, but I want to hear a story, like a job site story of a job that you were on. I know, Amber, you talked about the most difficult one, but maybe it's a story of like everything went right, or maybe it's a story that everything went wrong. If like a story that just really carries with you of your experience, like that you have that one job, Amber, that you talked about. So while you think of another example, Lena, I want you to like, what's something like, was it a day in school with your class even where, something you guys were all learning something and just a real life story about being out there and running the equipment or learning the new thing or where you were just kind of in there with your peers and all in it together and just a good story. I don't even, I know I want to give you more guidance than that, but I just don't know how. I just we're trying to let people know what it's like to be in these career paths. So I think more than just tell them this is what it is, a story that will help them feel.
That is such a hard question. I wish I could be like, can I have hours to think of this, you know? But I will say one thing that I do think of is we have a international training site down in Crosby, Texas, and Local 150 for their first and second year apprentices, they send you down there for a week of training, and this is free to the members, which is incredible, and it's pretty cool. You know, you get out of the state, go to somewhere new. And we were out there one day in the field with the dozers and excavators. A lot of people were digging trenches, you know, learning how to dig for pipe and those kind of things. And then, you know, it's Texas and it's nice and dry, but it's not always dry. So there was, you know, a big rainstorm coming in, and that's when it turns into crunch time. So, you know, you could imagine all the machines out there, everyone's cleaning up, sealing up, you know, people are jumping on sheep's foot and then rollers. So the reason why I bring that up is because the beautiful thing about a union, and especially, you know, just working in the trades, is you're all a team. There is no I in team. It takes everybody. So it's cool to see the big projects come together and everybody working together and just being a union in that way.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's like the biggest team, the biggest, closest team. Like I said, like I bet you guys keep in contact with each other over time just because you were here, right? And have something in
Absolutely.
common. So, Amber, did anything come to mind or for
A
you?
couple things. I have to ask, did you meet the alligator crocodile? I'm from Utah. I don't know the difference.
I heard the stories, but I did not see the alligator.
Oh, you didn't?
Did you?
Next time. Yes. Yep.
Oh,
So this is out at the training site. There's a
yes.
alligator
Yep.
out there.
Yep.
I've heard of this training site. So I think
It's incredible. I've been there
Hmm.
like 5 times. I can't. It's an incredible privilege to have a training site like that that we have access to.
and they
So
just take it, people from all over the country go there just
yeah,
for
they'll
that.
they'll fly you out. It's a massive campus. It's like staying in a nice hotel. You're gonna come home 10 pounds heavier
Hmm.
because they have good food. I
Yep.
think they have good food. And they have, I don't know how many cranes they have now. It's massive. Any kind of training that you could think of. So
Nice, nice. I
yeah.
can't wait. I think Amber, we talked at Trade Women Build Nation. You introduced me to somebody that does training out there every now and then.
Yep.
We'll have to get her to come on here a little bit
Yes.
later. So anyway, share.
Well, I kind of started to redirect because I was thinking about like my favorite moments on the jobs were where they took me. And like my favorite ones were the mountain jobs, and those were my favorite. But then as Lena started talking, I think when I look back and the things that I have the fondest memories of, which is how I heard the question, it's all the time spent with my crew. And it's the really long commutes sometimes with each other. You spend so much time together and you get to know each other so well that you are a family, you know, for better or for worse. You're a family. It's not a specific job. It's the people and the crews and those little experiences that you have, you know, watching somebody do something stupid, doing a little trick on somebody, or that like, oh, we thought we were headed off the job and we just realized our, you know, they hit the utilities, and so we're working another 7 hours and you get done, and that just like the camaraderie and the satisfaction and sense of accomplishment that you share together is so bonding.
See, I love it. I've been in the construction industry my entire adult life, and so like that's just a natural. Like I don't know that you get that outside of the construction industry the same way, because that bonding, that time, that I mean, I'm sure there are things out there, but I think that's one thing that really causes us to have those conversations of like, oh, you want to be an operating engineer? Well, let me tell you, come here. I'm going to help you. This is how you're going to do it. I think that's why those things happen, is because of that effect that it has on us as we work with the people that we work with. That's pretty phenomenal, Amber. And I think that was a great answer to a question that I just kind of threw out there at you. Here in a minute, going to take on a couple more questions. And as those are getting ready, I just want to know each of you, just kind of almost like a rapid fire from each of you. If you were to give someone a piece of advice, like the number one piece of advice that you would give somebody that wants to get started to be an operator, what would that piece of advice be? Who wants to start with that one? Who's got one? Amber, you got one?
If it's a rapid fire, I don't ever do anything rapid fire.
It's okay.
It's the best piece of advice to somebody that wants to join the operators. You got to show up on time, and you got to have a good work ethic. It's an incredible career, but show up on time. I think that's a huge part of it right there.
All right. How about you, Lena?
I would say the biggest piece of advice I could give would be getting out of your comfort zone is going to become the new normal. And this sounds maybe a little intimidating and scary, but this is where you see and feel almost in a way the most success. Because if you think about it, if you go into something confident, which is great, when you finish it, you feel great, and that's what naturally should happen. But if you go into something, a little uncomfortable and scared and you get that done, you ace it, it feels all that more better. So that's just my biggest thing is, even though I've, been in for a short time compared to Amber, but I've been in for almost 4 years, and every day there's still some things, that I'm out of my comfort zone, and it just makes finishing that day feel all the more better. And then you get more opportunities being uncomfortable. So that's kind of my advice I could give.
Perfect. And actually, the folks that are on this webinar, they want to hear from somebody that's been there just for the 4 years or things like that. You bring a value. You're never just the 4 years. Like
Thank you.
we all bring value to the conversation. So while we're getting a question, Sandy R asks, Lena, since you're a second generation operator, how clear was your understanding of the industry before you started working in it? And were there any surprises?
That's a great question. So even though I was a second generation operator, I was not super into the knowledge of what's all behind it. I knew like, oh, okay, that machine's, that's a crane, it's a dozer. And I'd get the stories of my dad, we're driving by and he'd be like, hey, I built that, which I now have the fortunate experience to now get to do. But I was not super aware. So joining really broadened that, and there was a lot of learning to do, but which was a lot of fun, and I'm still learning every day. So kind of the short answer to that would be even though I should have known more, I did not.
Yeah, you almost have to be butt in seat to know all those things, I
Yeah.
think. Anna B asks, what's been your toughest day on a job site and how did you push through? Fight for
I'll
it.
start. I always think of this day. So, when I got the first half of my wisdom teeth removed last winter, we have night shifts on the highway when we're doing lane changes, and I had two of my wisdom teeth removed in the morning, and then that night, I was like, you know what, I'm not calling off work, so I went into work that night, and it was a rough night. It ended up being a 13-hour shift, and you're just all out of sorts. We're awake every day, so when you're up at night, it's just not fun. So I remember there was a lot of tears that night. My mouth was bleeding, but after it was over, I was like, I did that. I was like, that's great. And then pretty much every shift after that felt a lot easier. So that would probably be the hardest day/night I had.
It's kind of like if you have a headache, have somebody kick you in the shin, and then you don't think of your
Right?
headache anymore. Is that
Yeah.
theory? The theory on there? Just have your wisdom teeth pulled out, and then go and have that tough
Yeah.
day. Amber, you got anything to add to that?
I have a hard time thinking of like one particular tough day. I think a lot of the times, collectively, the most challenging days that I had were due to hours in the summer. And, the whole crew starts to get burnout. Everybody starts, getting snippy sometimes. Like it happens anywhere. And and then something goes wrong. You had plans, you didn't get to make it home. Just those are the times that I think of, and the way that you push through is you have like You've got to. No job is forever. In our industry, that means like, once you finish your job, you move on to it, not, you up and quit. But no job lasts forever. And tomorrow's, it always gets better the next day.
So maybe it's only hard while you're in it. And then after that, you just forget.
You do.
Margaret Louise M asks, how does the daily physical wear and tear factor into long-term planning for you? I think there's a misconception here. I think people think that if you're driving equipment all day long, that it's easy on your body, but how does the daily physical wear and tear factor into a long-term planning for?
I'll comment on it because I'm middle aged and doing it. Or when I was, there were two parts of it. It was the thing that kept me in shape, and it was the thing that also felt like it was breaking me down. Getting beat up in the equipment because sometimes you're out, you help the crew with shoveling and stuff like that, but getting knocked around, beaten down in the equipment. I learned early on that I had to be more mindful about taking care of my body. And that's afterwards, whether it's like for me, it was yoga or going to the gym. I started getting massages. I started getting, just really being proactive about taking care and being safe about. That's probably the most important, was being safe about the things that I was doing and not taking shortcuts because I felt like I needed to prove something. Too old for that.
There's some advice there for you, Lena. Just
Yes, thank
yoga,
you.
gym.
Mhm.
Team lift.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't
I
overdo
love
it because
that.
you're trying to prove something. I think we see a lot of people when they come into the industry try to start proving, and then you get the old ladies here that are like, you don't have to do that. You're going to be fine. You don't have to do
Yeah.
that. You talked about it a little bit, Amber, in your answer there. I know we're getting right to the end, but I wanted to make sure the couple things that I learned as I was helping people explore career paths with operating engineers was people think that that's all you do. You get in the equipment and you're in this cab and you're just it's easy work or easy on your body physically. But I had an operator say, no, you got to be out in the dirt first. Like you got to get to know the dirt. You're going to be out there. You might be, doing things like, cleaning tracks or out there with the shovel. Could you comment a little bit on that? Either one of you, like the physical part of it outside of the equipment that you might see or experience as a apprentice or a young operator?
I'll touch on it. And I know as far as getting out and helping, that varies from uh, different companies, different states, how, because sometimes you absolutely can't, sometimes you're expected to. And I think that from my experiences, it's getting out and laboring, understanding there's a lot of knowledge, there's a ton of value there to get out and one, physically help your crew. You're going to learn more about the entire process, whether it's, reading grade. I could go on forever about that. There's a respect factor to it. And sometimes it's just nice to get out and move your body and work a little bit more. But it's all just getting out and helping the crew however they need to. It's extremely important.
Lena, you got anything to add to that, or does that about cover it?
Yeah, kind of what Amber was saying. Like on our crews, the operators, we kind of just stay in the cabs. Like we, if laborers, it's a little different in our area. It's pretty much that's yours, this is ours. But kind of going along with that, like shoveling tracks, like you mentioned. So those are things, like manual labor you have to do, which is a great workout too. You have to look at it in the great way, in the positive way.
I did want to add one more thing, and it's just to pack the knowledge out there and the things that I've learned along the way, and it's about the equipment itself. I had somebody that came through the pre-apprenticeship program who was a gamer. They liked gaming, and we put them in some equipment, and they just it was like they were at home. They were just naturals with the equipment. Is that the heavy equipment now? What does it look like inside? Like how technical, like it's not just a joystick anymore. It's way more technical than that now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say like,
Yeah.
I know Amber could definitely touch with the loader because there is a lot of things going on at once, but like, excavator, dozers, you've got two joysticks, you're using both feet. I mean, you're clicking buttons, so it's involved. And I would say, kind of going along with the gaming, I was an athlete, so I would say like hand-eye coordination and all that definitely played a factor into operating.
That makes me think of a drummer. Like if you're using both your feet and you're like, it's, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but that's good to know, like athletes and the hand-eye coordination. And I do this every time we go over. But Amber, do you have anything to add? Like as far as is the equipment more like a cockpit these days? Is it?
There's a lot going on, and I've heard, when we go out to job fairs at schools, I've heard that being said a lot. You can always tell the kids that have never been in a piece of equipment and they sit down and just like nail the test on the excavator simulator, that you can always pinpoint the gamers, so. And inside, it kind of depends on the piece of equipment. Some are pretty ancient, and some are pretty high tech, a lot of stuff going on. I always felt that with the end blade and the older ones, there's a lot going on. Hand-eye coordination, pretty important.
All right. All right. Well, it's just the things that, didn't come up, and it's things that I've recently learned with helping people career paths. So I just kind of wanted to take that out there, and you guys, thank you for joining us. There's been, some great questions, but you guys, I like the different varied experience between the two of you. Got a lot of different aspect of the trade, and really how you would get started. For you guys out there, we've got some links that we threw in there. I think we threw in the chat on how you could find the opportunities in your area to get started as an operator through the operating engineers. And thank you guys for being here, and for you guys that are on watching. Don't forget to join us. Let's see, it's March 3rd for our next webinar, and we're going to talk about the blueprint for beginners. So finding the start line, like how do we, if we don't know where to go, how do we start? So we're going to talk about pre-apprenticeships, what the benefits of those are, of going through one is, what that can do for you. And then we're going to hear some insight from different leaders that help oversee and manage and run some of these pre-apprenticeships around the country. And they can share what their experience has been and what the insight from their students has been, and all of that kind of stuff. So thank you guys for joining us, and Amber and Lena, man, you've been great.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have to all
stay in touch for sure. Guys, have a good night. Thank you for joining Power Hour. Join our live Power Hours at higherpower.org. Share Higher Power with anyone considering energy industry careers. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also listen to Higher Power wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next week for another Power Hour.